Hello, everybody. In 14 and a half hours, we're flying today from Japan to Germany, and that in one of the best airlines in the world, Japan Airlines. And our plane is already standing there. The second one is there that will bring us to Frankfurt. Now, Japan Airlines is one of the five-star airlines, and this particular plane that we're going to be on will have the Apex Suite, one of the most outstanding seats out there. Only 4 airlines in the world actually have the Apex Suite, so it's going to be pretty special altogether already. Now let's go in 14 and a half hours from Tokyo Narita to Frankfurt am Main.
Welcome to the Plane Insider. I'm Chris from Travel Sing Fly. Here you'll explore the world's airlines up close, from economy to business and first class, filmed live on board, authentic and full of detail. You'll also discover stunning destinations across all continents and learn how to make premium travel possible through miles, points and insider know-how built over 25 years of experience. Honest, inspiring and entertaining. It's your inside view into aviation and travel. This is the Plane Insider by Travel Sing Fly. Subscribe now and let's fly.
Here we are on board our Dreamliner that will bring us to Frankfurt in 14 and a half hours. Boarding is already quite special here because here you get all the Japanese courtesy and everything. Not only the smiles, but also the bowing at every situation, not just the Japan Airlines, but throughout the country. Then after boarding, we got a welcome drink. There was a selection of orange juice or champagne. Then it was already the menu at the seat, the amenity kit, slippers for the flight, the headset. And then they had a cardigan that you can rent or just get for the flight, and then you have to give it back again. And then they have something else, something really Japanese, a gentle steam eye mask. Very nice. And now we're already at the runway.
Before boarding at 10 a.m., I went to the Sakura Lounge at Narita Airport. The lounge spans 2 levels and offers fantastic views of the airfield and parked aircraft. A dramatic open staircase connects the 2 levels, as do escalators and elevators. Fresh flowers soften the understated Japanese design of the space and rooms with ample seating. And overall, the Sakura Lounge here at one of the airline's hubs is naturally on a completely different level than, for example, the rather monotonous Sakura Lounge in Frankfurt. There are 2 buffets with Western and Japanese hot and cold dishes, each with calorie information as is customary in Japan. There are also temperature-controlled wine cabinets and the famous beer dispensers, as well as very nice bathrooms with ensuite toilets and showers with shower heads facing all directions. Check-in with Japan Airlines is also a pleasure because to Europe, not only in first class but also in business class, an incredible 3 pieces of luggage weighing up to 32 kilograms each are allowed as free baggage, more than with any other airline in the world. This was a 2-month-long trip, so naturally I had my big suitcase, but I often travel with just hand luggage, and the carry-ons of Level 8 have proved to be particularly effective. Level 8's Voyager carry-ons are not only real eye-catchers, but also offer an enormous amount of interior space within the permitted dimensions. The handle is integrated into the frame, so no space is wasted inside, allowing for extra packing space and enabling longer trips than many other carry-ons. carry-ons. I also like very much the high quality of how the carry-ons are finished, both inside and out, just like Level 8's aluminum carry-on Gibraltar, which I use when there's events involved and I need to look especially stylish. On top, all Level 8 suitcases roll on the best wheels I know, and that after I've owned most of the big expensive brands. By the way, in addition to your carry-on, most airlines allow one small personal item, and for me that's always a backpack that also securely holds a laptop. On short trips I take the urban backpack of Level 8, which attaches perfectly to the wide handle of my carry-on. Memorial Day is coming up, and with it a special promotion, an ideal opportunity to invest in high quality and practical luggage. But even if you're seeing this report just before Christmas, perhaps it's a sign. If you're interested, check out the video description. There you'll find a link with a discount code that will get you all Level 8 luggage and accessories at a special discount. Enjoy shopping and then some truly great luggage. And now off we go to 14 hours in the air.
Now that was a nice takeoff from Tokyo Narita. A special thing about the Dreamliner is that you cannot open and close the windows with a window flight, but only by the push of a button. And then there's a electrochemical reaction between two very small windows, and that makes the window dark or bright. So you can look out or not. However, they can also centrally control the windows. That means sometimes they can just make it dark, even if you don't want that. I hope Japan Airlines does not do that, so we can still have a control if it's dark or bright. Just in the moment when we reach our cruising altitude, they already started service here. So we have a look at the menu now before everything is being served. First of all, they talk about the 3 chefs that are responsible for this menu. They're all awarded chefs. Then they have a wine advisor and a coffee director here at Japan Airlines. There's 2 kinds of champagne, Charles Heidsieck and Le Large Peugeot Tradition Extra Brut champagne. Then they have a Japanese wine. Japan does cultivate wine, so that's quite nice actually. And then there's 2 white wines, one from Germany, one from France, and 2 French red wines. Then there's 2 kinds of sake, 2 kinds of soju. Then there's Japanese whiskey, all kinds of soft drinks, and then there's also non-alcoholic beer that is not just non-alcoholic but also 0 calories, so that is something really, really special. Then of course they have all kinds of cocktails and mocktails, and they have different kinds of coffee. And then let's have a look at the food. They have, of course, Japanese and Western cuisine here. Have what they call an irodori gozen, and that's starters, Japanese style, really nice small delicacies from Japan. Then there's dainomono, that's the main dish. That's cod and curry and beef cheeks with rice. Then there's a miso soup, kunomono, that's cucumber and simmered kelp. And then there's also some Asian dessert. As international dish, they have really nice autumn seafood terrine with black truffle sauce. Then main dish is either beef fillet, steak, or some salmon, and then they have bread and nice dessert. But now comes a really special thing. They have on top of it the a la carte on-demand service. So anytime you like, you can still order a la carte And that's a really big selection of all kinds of Western and Japanese dishes. That's salads and sandwiches, light meals, big meals, noodles, cheese, ice cream, fruits, and then also Japanese big platters, small platters. Really, really very impressive. Now I'm really looking forward to this culinary part of the flight, even though I'm really not hungry at the moment. I should not be looking forward, but I am. So we got some nuts, that's walnuts, slightly sweet, and almonds, and then there's some nice dressing sauce. Kind of, I guess that's for the grissini here. Some tomato parmigianos or something like this. And then I got this here, that's the signature drink of JL, a non-alcoholic kind of lemonade, nice and peachy, grapefruity. And then there's this champagne here, that's actually an organic champagne, very nice. So they have it in barrels for 36 months, I believe, before they fill it into the bottles. It has a very nice and rich texture and nice taste, very full-bodied taste, and it's not very expensive actually, but it tastes really nice. We can actually buy it also at home. A very special thing about this route is again that we will fly over the North Pole. The North Pole is one of the two options you get between Japan and Europe. Either it's across the North Pole area or through all of Central Asia and then up into Europe, because of course Japan Airlines does not fly over Russia at the moment, which would make the whole trip at least 2 hours faster. But anyway, on the way here I already did the North Pole route. I even got a North Pole diploma, so I hope this time I will have also some good weather, because on the flight to Japan it was completely overcast. Could have been anywhere, but it was over the North Pole. Part of the Japanese menu has arrived, and it would be really a crime to not talk about it, because it's so special. I think this even tops over my experience with ANA, the room from Chicago to Tokyo, because this is really outstanding. So let's start. It's Irodori Gozen, so that's 5 different little delicacies. The first one is potato puree with ikura and squash, and chicken teriyaki with sancho pepper, a simmered prawn, and deep fried swordfish with panko. And you can see just how much salmon caviar is on top, the one of the little dishes here. Other airlines would brag about it like crazy. It's just part of a little part of the appetizers. So then we have another little dish, that's snow crab, and 2 colors of chrysanthemum flour and rice vinegar and dashi jelly. Then we have wagyu beef, little slices of wagyu, also with chrysanthemum and some shichimi spice sauce. And then there's some salmon, grilled salmon with maitake mushrooms and miso and chichimi spices. And the 5th little delicacy dish is simmered abalone and eggplant with dashi sauce and ginger. It's just breathtaking. bed is ready. I have my pajamas on that I always just carry with me just to be sure. They do have a cardigan here for in-flight use only though. However, it's only a jacket more or less with a little button in the middle, so the rest will be naked. And I really don't want to do that here on the plane. Anyway, I'm gonna just lie down a little, maybe watch some movies, maybe even sleep a little. There's still more than 10 hours to go. What is also very interesting is that there is no other fixed service time here on board the plane, and that is really good actually, because they have this huge dine-on-demand menu that you can choose from until an hour and a half before landing. That gives you the chance to just eat whenever you like, just until before landing, and that is quite good, I think. Anyway, I'm gonna lie down and I see you when I'm up again.
There's almost no storage here, so the bed is pleasantly wide and above all very private, but that only applies to the window seats. At 74 inches, it's not the longest bed in the world, but your legs don't have to squeeze into a more or less cramped foot coffin under the seat in front, as they would on almost all other business class seats, and that's a big plus. First I dimmed the windows halfway and then watched some of the flight show and movies. The entertainment system is conveniently controlled with a remote, and the selection of movies and TV series was on a good average. The sound comes through noise cancelling over-ear headsets by Sony. The 24-inch screen is really nice, as is the flight show. Wireless phone charging and Bluetooth connectivity are not available though. In the galley there were a few drinks and snacks for self-service, and you could also order food at any time, from a small snack to a full meal. The remote control, by the way, doesn't just operate the entertainment system, you can also order food and drinks with it at the touch of a button, and that's not only very Japanese, but also very convenient. This flight was supposed to be a full daytime flight, however, since the eastern route was chosen for this flight, we briefly passed through the bright polar night, and therefore the windows were centrally blacked out for 2 hours. Luckily not longer, because what we saw outside was simply too spectacular to miss. Here's a few impressions before I get back to talking on board.
So, we're having 2 hours and a half until landing, and I rested really very well. The bed is very nice, spacious actually. Maybe the bed is not for 2-meter tall people. I have the feeling that the bed at Oman Air and Gulf Air was longer. This is the Airbags suite that is only flown by Japan Airlines, Oman Air, Gulf Air and Korean Air. I have already 2 videos out about Oman Air and Gulf Air. You really should check them out. It's pretty nice to watch. And I have a feeling that there, the Airbags suite was longer. So that could be, I have to check it at home. Then I watched some movies and really enjoyed watching the map as well. And the cabin was dimmed, but completely dimmed only for 2 hours. After that, you were allowed to look out, and I really feel pity for all the people who have no interest at all for what's going on outside, because the area we were flying over is just stunning and outstanding, and it's also an area that might disappear in the future. We were flying in the North Pole region, and it was just so amazing. Now this time we didn't fly over the North Pole like I did before from Helsinki to Japan. There would have been the route north of Russia, but this time we flew north of Canada. Really interesting. That means we did fly eastbound, not westbound. So the crew took the orders for the last meal. Our last meal for this flight, of course, and quite a few options are not available anymore. I looked throughout the flight actually at the Häagen-Dazs ice cream that I wanted to try or to eat. No need to try anymore. But now, finally, it's not available anymore. Everybody had it except for me, obviously. So now I'm just gonna have some set menu of a Japanese chef who does crossover dishes, and this is a crossover Japanese Western style. Okay, I'll try. So how did I book this flight and how much did it cost? That is a very important topic on my channel, and in almost all my airline reviews I also talk about that. And many of my flights are booked with miles or points, and that's also a very important part on this channel, to talk about how you can save money by booking with miles and points. However, in this case I did not buy the flight myself, but my employer, the Opera House of Tokyo, bought the flight for me. I just performed at the Opera House in Tokyo. I sang the lead role in a world opera premiere, and it was really a very nice experience. Incredibly successful production and premiere, so that was really very nice. And the Opera House paid for my flights, I said. But there was, of course, a certain budget. I went on Finnair to Tokyo and back here on Japan Airlines. That was actually my wish combination. However, that was actually quite expensive and totally over budget, about 6,000 euros. But I found a way to stay within the budget. I played around a little with the flight numbers, and now I'm sitting here on Japan Airlines, but with a Finnair flight number. So that was possible. And once this flight had the Finnair flight number, the price was completely different. It saved more than 2,000 euros, and suddenly I stayed within the budget. It was just a little bit above 3,000 euros, and that's a real steal when it comes to round trips in business class between Europe and Japan. Almost 14 hours have passed and we're descending into Frankfurt am Main. Now, how was this flight? First of all, the seat. The seat is really very special. The Apex suite only exists on Oman Air, Gulf Air, Korean Air and Japan Airlines, and it's a very nice. Also, the finishing is really nice. It's a very nice seat. Wide and spacious. When you lie down, they have the nice mattress topper. You don't feel actually the seat. It's like a really nice bed. They have nice comforter, pillows and so on. Very nice. Then the crew, very friendly, of course. It's a Japanese crew, so everything is a little bit after the rule book, but in a very, very friendly way. Very gorgeous, just like the country is. It's a country where being nice to each other and being very correct to each other counts a lot, and you can see that also here at the airline. Then when it comes to the food of course is very good, especially when it comes to Japanese food. That's what I can talk about now because I have the Japanese menu. Of course, they have very good Japanese cuisine here. They also have the Western option though, and it looked quite good, that I can say. Then, of course, they have also a nice selection of drinks. They have champagne, quite good champagne, red wine, white wines, and they had even Japanese red wine. Then, of course, sake, shochu, and so on. Another really nice thing about food is that you can order it here on the manual here by the remote control. That is actually quite handy. You don't have to ring for somebody to come. That's an extra walk for them as well. And you don't have to wait. You just select the food and the drinks you like here on the menu. That's something very Japanese. That's what you find in many restaurants all over the country. You just go in the restaurant, there's a tablet, you just select your food on the tablet, and a few minutes later the food arrives to your table. Then when it comes to the entertainment, first of all, the monitor screen is really nice. It's wide, it's close enough to the seat actually. lights, nice colors and so on. It could be a little more modern, the whole system, I mean. But I mean, there's so many others who are much worse. So this is really way above average here. Really nice. And when it comes to the selection of movies and TV shows, it's quite average, I would say. Not a super big selection, not many options, but enough. Also for this long flight, I watched a few movies, saw the list. I would have liked to watch more movies on this very long flight, so that's a good sign actually. And then there's of course this amazing route that we're flying today over the Arctic region, something so spectacular and unique, and I spent so much time just watching outside. And I don't understand the people who prefer to be in the dark cabin, not interested what's happening outside such a spectacular landscape. I mean, they watch Instagram for hours every day, and then when something really spectacular is happening in reality outside, they don't want to watch. I don't quite get it. Anyway, that's just a side note. This whole flight was really an experience. Of course, I understand that Japan Airlines is mostly more expensive than other airlines. I understand it if it's in this kind of seat. Of course, if it's too expensive, it does not make sense. Otherwise, this flight was really very nice and absolutely recommended. So here we've landed at Frankfurt am Main airport after 14 hours. What an interesting, also beautiful flight that was. I hope you enjoyed the report. If yes, give me a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel, leave your comments, and another really nice report would be this one over here. Check it out right away. I'm Chris. Thank you for watching.